Hello everyone, I thought I'd make a video where I do a tier list of Helluva Boss. I'm sorry if this is a really bad format. I am not, I am on my phone. Okay, that just makes it worse. Anyway, let's just start with the pilot. The pilot, so when the pilot is on its own, it's okay. I feel like the episode would have been great if it had an actual plot, but it didn't. And the episode was pretty confusing because they go to a child's hospital because they accidentally shoot the child, but then they end up realizing that the child was their target, which is really, really weird. I don't really understand that. So, it's a little weird. It's funny, but nothing more. It's a funny episode, and I feel like it's a very interesting start to it. But then again, in the future it changes, and some say that the pilot is not canon, but I'm like, okay, then what's the point in making a pilot if it's not going to be canon? I mean, if this is Helluva Boss, it's going to be like The Office, or it's going to be like that because it says Helluva Boss, like, pretty self-explanatory. This is what it's supposed to be, but then again, it's very different from it. And in comparison to the rest of the episodes, it isn't really that great. So I'm just going to put it in D tier. Murder Family. This was a pretty interesting start to introduce Helluva Boss to it. But if you assume that someone hasn't seen if you assume that all of your audiences have seen the pilot, then that would be really weird because some people might be confused on which person is which. But I think after a while, people will be realizing, Luna is Blitz's daughter, and Millie and Moxie are married if you end up, connecting the dots. But I feel like it's a little weird because you just assume that all of your audiences have, seen the pilot. But I think that this episode is better because, it actually has a plot, and it's pretty funny, but it's all right. C tier. Wow. Okay, no. Sorry, I almost did Spring Broken next. Anyway, Lululand. I know a lot of people really love this episode, but I think it's kind of overrated. It was just hard to watch for me, Stolas, flirting, or Stolas hitting on Blitz was uncomfortable, and just it just was really cringe and stuff like that. Octavia not having a good time was hard to watch. Also, definitely I second this, or I cannot stress this enough. Stolas being a bad father in this episode was absolutely, unbearable to me. I get it, it's comedy, but it was just, uncomfortable. It did not, or just didn't sit with me, right? When he's like, oh, you used to cry such tears of joy at the show, and then it, shows, 5-year-old Octavia being pushed in front of a robotic Fizzarolli where she's crying. Bro, you're such an oblivious parent. Please, get a life. Some people think, oh, he's trying on being a parent, but, he's mostly just breaking his promises with Octavia. Don't get me wrong, this episode is definitely, better than Murder Family, but it's not, as good as... But, it's not as good as people say it is, in my opinion. The episode is, I'd say it's a 7.5 out of 10. It's all right. It's okay. I think that the first few minutes of some of the moments were really great, but there were just parts where I just started losing interest, and parts that didn't sit with me right, the comedy of being oh, Stolas is a bad father, and we're gonna shove it in your face, or, Stolas is hitting on Blitz, and Blitz is telling him his boundaries, but he's not listening. And Octavia's suffering, that poor girl. Also, I did not like how Luna didn't come along. I feel like Luna would have worked perfectly for this episode, because then Octavia could have actually had someone to talk to and bond with. That would have been great, right? But we don't. Anyway, the episode is better than Murder Family because, we get more settled in. But in my opinion, I feel like this episode happened way too early. Because they're establishing Blitz's, Blitz's crush, I'd say. His crush. I'm just gonna say his crush. Before we even get introduced to, Millie more, giving Millie some more character, or maybe even Luna, but we don't really do that here. We just add in Stolas and Octavia. And I feel like this episode kind of lost its focus from Stolas and Octavia. And also, oh my god, Robotic Fizzeroli. I did not like Robotic Fizzeroli. A lot of people loved him, but I thought he was so annoying. Sure, the things he said were very interesting and seemed like there was some lore there, but it kind of just came out of nowhere, and it felt like it was just horseshoed in just to make Blitz do something. Anyway, moving on, Spring Broken. Do I even have more to say about this episode? This episode was great. This episode was hilarious. It had great characters, and it had so much lore with, Blitz's backstory on one of his ex-partners, his ex-girlfriend Veronica, and they start fighting over a parking space, by just, trying to, sabotage, her, Spring Broken concert. That was great. That was amazing. I loved that so much. The episode was also really funny, and we also get introduced to an amazing character named Vortex. Vortex is such a chill dude. I'm surprised not that many people talk about him. Come on, he's had more screen time than Sally Mae, and for some reason people don't even bat an eye over him. What's with this? Vortex is amazing. I love him so much. Also, he's really hot. I'm not the only one who's, crushing on him. I mean, Luna is too, but, am I the only one aside from Luna who's crushing on him? Vortex is so hot. seriously. He's also really sweet. And, yeah, he has a girlfriend, but we end up finding out that spoiler alert, in the Lost episode, season 1, episode 8, a lot of things happen. Things sure do happen. And, or we get to introduce to his amazing girlfriend. So, anyway, Vortex is amazing. Vortex is very underrated. Also, I love Veronica. She's just awesome in every way possible. She just wants to make Blitz feel miserable and just be like, I can't believe what you did to me. You're the worst ever. Anyway, it was just a great episode, and it was so funny. Moxie being drunk, just everything just seemed so great. And the fight that Luna and Blitz had was pretty interesting because I wanted to wonder, oh, so she'd rather be in the pound than ever meet Blitz. Wow, that's to show how much of a bad father Blitz is. But we can all tell that Blitz is actually trying to be a good parent, and he loves his daughter so much. Next one is Cherub. It's a very hated episode, but it's not really that great. While we're at it, I'm probably just gonna add, E tier. I feel like it should be there at some point. Wait, oh no, I accidentally, excuse me for a moment. I gotta do something for a bit. Add row below. Now there's F tier, which is gonna be the lowest of the low. And then there it is, F tier. And then there's E tier and then F tier. Anyway, Cherub. I'm so sorry, but sure, these two episodes had similar problems. The episode, the pilot did not have a plot. Which is why I think Cherub is better. And I know a lot of people didn't like Cherubs because, of the comedy, and it kind of had a dumb plot or characters they didn't care about, and it was probably very forgettable. And it was pretty forgettable. But don't get me wrong, this episode is so funny. It's one of the best comedy episodes. In my opinion, Spring Broken is funnier because there's a lot of random shit going on. But wow. I think Cherubs is also a funny episode, and I think it's very underrated. I think people should appreciate it more. Like, the episode overall is, not that great, but it's not awful. Like, it's in my opinion, it's like, better than the other episodes that I'm gonna be reviewing. But, anyway, yeah. That's what I think about this episode. I think the episode is very funny, and Cletus is a very annoying character, but I loved Keeney mostly because she was voiced by Vizzy Pop, and I just love Colin because he's like, he's another butt of the joke, which is really dumb, but anyway, he's just great. He's just so innocent and stuff like that. I hope we get the Cherubs to come back at some point, but maybe they won't. I mean, I hope they do. I don't want it to be a random filler episode. Also, Loop-de-Goop-de and Lyle Lipton, I didn't really care about them that much. I mean, they were okay. But what's crazy is that Loop-de-Goop-de was actually voiced by the same person who played who played Blitz. Brandon Rogers. He played both of them, which I know a lot of people knew already, but it's crazy because their voices were so different. I did not know. That's the power of voice acting. Anyway, I need to stop singing. Okay, Harvest Moon Festival. Wow, this episode was great. Holy crap. I would have given it a B tier, but now I feel like it's an A tier, very strong A tier, because in comparison of what the writing was with Stryker, I feel like this episode seems like Stryker's just a lot better. He's so menacing and he's just great overall. I think it was because he was voiced by a very popular actor, Norman Reedus. I think this episode was really great, but a problem I did have with it of it being A tier instead of A plus tier is because this could have been centered around Millie, but it wasn't. That's probably why I'm just going to give it a B tier, because it was not centered around Millie, and it probably should have, because they could have worked with that. Like, when Millie's mother is telling Millie that when Millie's mother Lynn is telling her that she can cheer on her siblings while they compete, because Millie can't compete because she's, very violent, and she's like a violent assassin or whatever. But the thing is, it's just that with, we don't get to see any more of, like, Sally Mae or any of the other siblings, like, doing it, so that's another thing. This episode is basically just like, oh, Moxie worrying about his self-worth and being jealous of Stryker. They could have made this about Millie in some ways, but they didn't, which I think is kind of disappointing. They could have really worked with this out, but I don't know. I mean, this episode was the episode. I feel like it could have been. It would have been better if it was about Millie, but it wasn't about Millie, so that's another thing. Also, again, Luna is useless in this episode. Thanks a lot, bitch. Also, yeah. And, the episode could have been better, I feel like. Yeah, I would have added tweaks. If I were to rewrite the episode, I totally would. Anyway, Truth Seekers. Wow. I was not ready for this episode when it first released. Yeah, actually, I watched this episode, like, the day it released. And I remember watching the Harvest Moon Festival episode, like, when it was only, like, maybe 3 months old. It's crazy that it's 2 years old now. Wow, how time flies. Anyway, I watched this episode, I watched Truth Seekers, the day it came out, so it feels kind of nostalgic to me. And, the Dorks agents, they're okay. They're kind of goofy and stuff like that. But I really hope they come back, because they'd make a really cool, thing. They'd make a really cool comeback thing. But, I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, this episode was just great. And we finally get to see, Moxie and Blitz getting along. Like, they actually get along and they work together, and they're actually nice to each other. And that scene where, Blitz and Moxie are both really quiet, and then they just talk about each other. They talk to each other, and they're both really honest with each other, which I really like. Hope we get to see more of their dynamic of Blitz and Moxie, because, these two work together well, I think, in some ways. If Blitz weren't so hard on Moxie, the two of them would get along so well. I know this is a quick tangent, but I'm the only one here who can imagine an alternate universe where Moxie and Millie are best friends, and Blitz and Millie are married, and Luna is the daughter of both of them. I feel like Luna would definitely help out with the parenting. That would be very interesting. Imagine there being an alternate universe where Luna actually ends up calling Millie mom. That would be crazy. And then, Millie would end up telling, Blitz. Blitz, she would just say, Blitz, you really gotta be easier on my best friend. Wouldn't that be such an interesting, fan fiction or something? Maybe you should write a fanfic about that. Or maybe some of you guys could. I don't know how talented I am at writing a fanfic, but it would be interesting. Anyway, this episode was great. I loved it so much. But it's hard to tell if Spring Broken or this episode is better. But I feel like Spring Broken is more worthy of it because Spring Broken is just a classic But, still, it has a very stellar animation during the Moxie's bad trip. And I just think that the episode, Truth Seekers, is just great overall. It totally blew my mind. But yes, Helluva Boss is capable of being fun. Some people tend to forget that, but I tend to remind them. Wow. Ozzy's was an emotional roller coaster. I know this is very dumb of me to say this, but I know this is very dumb of me to say this, but I did not cry during this episode. But oh my god, the type of emotion that Brandon Rogers put into it was just amazing. When I first watched this episode, I was just like, wow. We got to see Osmodius and Fizz, and we get to see that maybe the two are dating. Which, spoiler alert, in the most recent episode, they are. But anyway, this episode, Ozzy's, was just the best one. It was such a great way to, do a part 1 finale. But then I realized that presumed that if it's a part 1 finale, and if there's an actual finale in the works, does that mean episode 8 would be like a filler episode? How would they correspond with each other? That's what I wondered, because the Helluva Boss is supposed to be, an episodic show. So how are they going to work with that? Anyway, the episode, Ozzy's, was just great. I loved House of Osmodius, but I feel like people just tend to or in this show, I keep forgetting it's a musical, so I think there's too many songs in this show at once. But overall, I loved House of Osmodius. One problem with the song is that it goes on for too long. It lasts for too long, because this is a 17-minute episode, and I don't know, it's just really weird. Yeah, that's what I gotta say about it. Alright, Queen Bee. This was a very nice episode. Beelzebub is kind of like Veronica, but what Veronica would be like if she was really loving and wasn't super toxic, which, I don't know. Which is odd, because Vortex is dating Beelzebub. Also really love how Beelzebub is like a big sister to Luna. Luna's Luna reminds me of the little sister who's jealous of her older sister because she has the guy that she's crushing on, but she knows that she'll never get him because she's also just so jealous that everyone likes her and she just wants popularity, which just makes sense, and I feel sorry for Luna. We also get to see the best of Luna, but then 2 episodes later it gets shattered, like fucking shattered, because she's like beating the shit out of her adopted father. I'm gonna talk about that later, but that episode that I'm referring to makes me really fucking mad, which is why I have not seen that episode in a while. Anyway, this episode was nice. I'm not sure where to rate this episode. It's a finale, but it doesn't really feel like a finale, and they had Kesha in it. Like, the episode overall was nice. Like, we get to see Luna, like, telling Blitz that she'll be there for him, and then she calls him dad for the first time, which is really sweet, but it's really sad because it gets shattered, and it makes the situation just even worse. And we still get nothing resolved with Blitz and Stolas, so that sucks. But anyway, it's not this episode's fault because this episode was supposed to come before. So, other than that, this episode is probably gonna stand, and it's not as good as this episode. Probably just gonna put it in B tier. This episode is all right. I mean, it's good. It's in the good category. It's in the, I don't know how to rate. I'm not gonna rate it out of 10, but I'm just gonna put it in B tier for now. Maybe I'll put it in A tier. I don't know. All right, this episode, E tier. I'm sorry, but sure, I love Baby Stolas, and I love Baby Stolas, and I love young Blitz, and we get to see some backstory behind Fizzarolli and Blitz. And in case any of you motherfuckers out there are like really have your head up your ass, too far up your ass, then no, it is confirmed that Blitz and Fizz are not brothers. Like, Cash Buxo said stuff about, saying like, Blitz is my son, but then he doesn't say that Fizz is his son. It also explains that in the most recent episode that he ends up giving Fizz a card, "I wish you were my son." So that's another thing. Anyway, Stolas in this episode is really cute and stuff, but then with all the wholesome Disney Channel-esque friendship around it, where there's like barely any swearing and it feels like a kid's show, later on you get fast forward to 25 years, and then we see Blitz and Stolas bang. What makes no sense is that Blitz is the one to seduce Stolas, which makes no sense at all, because remember what Blitz said in the in Aussies, where he said that he's just done with having sex with Stolas because it's what Stolas seems like he only wants from Blitz. Well, yeah, you fucked up, bitch. Like, you seriously just like ruined these two together. Also, I thought this episode was okay when it came out, but the episode does not really hold up. The reason why I put it in E tier is because of that fantastic fight scene with Stella and Stolas. Like, oh my god, it was so good, because there's no sex jokes that ruin the tension. There's no jokes. There's no flying dildos out anywhere. It's just there, and there's nothing that breaks the tension. It's just seriousness, which is just amazing. That was great. It was amazing. Also, I feel like they really decimated Stella in this episode, which was not great. I didn't like that. All right, so I'm probably going to be really angry when I talk about this next episode. Seeing Stars. Fuck you. This episode was so irrelevant. You could go skipping. You could skip this episode. Like, just skip this episode at all costs. You really, really don't need to watch it. Like, I was expecting there to be an Octavia and Luna episode, but no, it does not focus on them. It also focuses on Blitzy Witsy and Stowissy Blowissy, just like being all lovey-dovey, ooh, gay, ooh. I just hate it so much. And, Millie and Moxie did not need to be in this episode. I also hated Luna's attitude where she ends up beating the absolute shit out of her own father. Luna would never do that. She would only yell at him and gently shove him aside. She's never resorted to, hitting him. What were the writers thinking? This episode is so bad. I do not like it. This episode is so irrelevant. I have not seen this episode in such a while because it's, ruined a lot of things for me. For some reason, Blitz and Stolas completely forget about stuff. And for some reason, Stolas is super out of character to the point where he's prioritizing he's yelling at Stella over his own daughter. Not when I mean over his own daughter, I don't mean yelling at his daughter. I'm just referring to him, actually listening to his daughter and, going to, see the stars. But, the thing is, what does Octavia have to apologize for? She did nothing wrong. She has every right to be angry because Stolas broke his promises because he's a bad father. People don't seem to realize that. Other than that, I don't want to rant about this episode. I just really don't like it. I don't want to watch it again. It was so boring. The sitcom scene where, there's only, 2 or 3 scenes in this episode that are actually, save this episode, but that's not enough to keep me entertained. I don't like this episode. Anyway, enough with me fake crying. X's and O's was a breath of fresh air. Holy crap. The reason why I say this is because this episode was way better. It had way better pacing. Also, Chaz as a character was a mistake. But when I first watched this episode, I thought it was great. But anyway, when I first watched this episode, I thought it was great. But other than that, this episode is just... I thought it was great because it was so much better than the other one. And I think it just blew my mind at how good they were able to, make the visuals and stuff like that. And also with the breath of fresh air. Also, I love Crimson. He's my favorite out of all the villains. He's just the type of villain that makes me feel uncomfortable. And I just love that in a villain. And there's nothing goofy about him. He's just dangerous. You really feel the danger in him. Also, what I thought was really dumb was how when Shaz is like, "Oh, I'm rich, bitch," and then Crimson was like, "Well, shit, I believe ya." Yeah. So I also think that the backstory of Moxie's mother was great. That was amazing. That was so good. Because it's the best backstory. It's the best backstory in Helluva Boss. By a large margin. Come and fight me. Anyway, the episode, I feel like Chaz was a mistake, which is why this goes in B tier rather than A tier. The episode was alright. I rated it as 8, but I'm probably going to rate it as 7, but I don't know. Anyway, the episode had a lot better pacing, but yeah, they did foreshadow, the mob family, killing mob family a joke in, season 1, episode 1, the very first episode, and now it's actually, happening. So that's a very cool thing. And, having Moxie, crying over killing a mother that seems innocent because, that mother probably reminded him of his own deceased mother. Also, yeah, the mother, Moxie's mother, I find it sad that his mom does not have a name. I really hope we actually get like a flashback episode of or just another episode that is, about Crimson and whatever. I also like how much personality they put into Crimson on being homophobic. It was very interesting. Also, if Crimson were to think that Moxie is gay for that long, wouldn't he be surprised by seeing that that Moxie has a wife? Like, wouldn't he be like, oh, I thought you were gay? But, okay, maybe we'll never know for sure, but I don't know. Chaz as a character was a mistake, because when I was hearing theories that, going around that Chaz is, like, Moxie's ex-boyfriend, I was so excited because I actually thought there was going to be a scene where Moxie is sitting with Chaz in a picnic, both having a good time, and then Chaz pulls out a guitar, and then he plays, and that he plays a song for him. And that Moxie just has a moment where he looks into Chaz's eyes and then he just feels nothing but just love. I would expect the backstory between the two of them just be really cute instead of just a bunch of dick jokes. Like, what's with that? Anyway, the episode was alright, I'd say. Western Energy. I'll be honest, this episode is definitely a mixed bag. Like, don't get me wrong, this episode was fun, with the funny B-plot of, Stola's trying to get Luna to take a shot, and it was just taking forever, and it just wasn't going well at all. And, like, also with, the awesome fight scene of Millie and, Millie and Moxie fighting Stryker. Also, Stryker's character is kind of ruined here, and I'm not saying this because of the recast. Because remember how they ruined Stella? They didn't do any recasting for Stella. That was still the same voice actress. But for this, they did a recasting, which it's all right. Like, you can still decimate characters when they come back without there being a recast. Do you guys even realize that? So put your pitchforks away of, like, Edward Bosco. Edward Bosco is really good at acting. He did, like, a lot of the voices. Like, I think he did, like, Joe, who was Millie's dad, I think, which I did not notice for a very long time. He also did Dennis. He did Alistair. Like, he has such a nice, distinct voice of everything. It's crazy. It's so cool. But yeah, it's great. Overall, Western Energy is okay. It's an okay episode. Anyway, yeah, the Western Energy episode is okay. Like, you could say it could have been better, but it was a fun episode. I feel like if they didn't, like, make Stryker into such, like, they didn't ruin Stryker in that way, or if they didn't take a different route into Stryker, I feel like it would have been fine. But I don't think that the recast caused Stryker to be out of character. I think it was just because of the weird writing shift. I think it was just because of the weird writing. I think it was because, they have a new writer called Adam Nalen. And I'll be honest, it's great to have Adam Nalen here. It's great to have Adam Nalen be... It's great to have... It's great to have Adam Nalen be on the team of Helluva Boss, but I do not like the way how he writes the episodes. Also, I forgot to mention that Moxie growing up in the greed ring came out of nowhere, because, he was born in Rathring. So if you talk about him growing up in, Greedring, then people are going to be confused. Don't tweet about it. Just explain it. Like, if Moxie says, I grew up just over there, swore I'd never come back. And then Millie would say something like, but Moxie, I thought you were from the Rathring. And then he could say something like, well, I grew up in Greedring, but I was born in Wrath. Like, make it be something simple or just different like that so people aren't all confused. Like, show it in the episode. Stop tweeting about it. Alright? Anyway, sorry for that random tangent there. But Western Energy was okay. I feel like if they didn't, decimate Stryker or ruin Stryker or, make Stryker, take Stryker in a different route that, they did with Stella, make Stella really stupid where Andrilphus has to, clean up after her mess and just, make her rethink and stuff. I love Andrilphus's design and, his voice. He has a very great voice. But this is not how you really introduce a character, because when you don't have a way to use the word, you won't know. Was, Stella's brother, because, they were talking. Fans were speculating and talking about Andrilphus. But if you don't pay attention to, the fan part of it and just watch the show, or, the fandom, and just watch the show, then you'll be confused on who that is for a while, which is not good writing. Anyway, Western Energy was alright. Unhappy Campers. I don't know. This episode... How do I put this in the words? This episode was a mess. Its pacing was okay. But there was just random camp shenanigans, and it wasn't that great of an episode. When I first watched it, I was expecting something a little more exciting, but the only really compelling part about it was that the only really compelling part about this episode was Blitz looking for his sister. That was the only really compelling part, because then we actually get to be introduced to Barbie Wire. And also, the actress of Barbie Wire is incredible. I love the way she acts, and I just love her voice so much. She's so good. So the episode was alright. I feel like it could have been way better. When I looked at the thumbnail, I thought that the roles were, reversed from what it was. I actually thought that the episode was going to be, Moxie being popular and getting distracted, but Millie has to remind Moxie that they have to keep being focused on their job. So imagine if the roles were reversed. Let's say, Millie plays as Millard, and Millie still plays as Millard, and Moxie still plays as Moxine. And the roles are, reversed. Moxine is the one who's being popular, and Millard is the one who is being shunned and being shit on, and everyone's shitting on him. Imagine having that. That would be very interesting, because then having Moxie say, for once I feel important, makes sense other than Millie saying it. And having Millie say, why do you care so much what these tweens think about you? Just seems to really paint a picture and just seems to make it be more interesting in some ways. So we get more Millie development. And then we get to see Moxie feeling important. And it actually feels like Millie is getting development where people are actually are like actually loving, or people are actually loving what Moxie's doing and they actually appreciate him. And like it's the first people that like actually, the first group of people that actually like respect him and like, you know, enjoy looking at him and stuff and like really obsess over him. So yeah, just have the roles reversed, and then that's what the thumbnail looked like to me, but instead it was completely different, you know, like having Moxie being the one wanting to be popular and Millie wanting to like not get distracted seemed more interesting in some ways. So yeah, definitely would be more interesting in some ways. Like I would most definitely rewrite the episode if I could. Yeah, I feel like if the episode is in B or below, I feel like I would put it in a category of being like, I would totally rewrite this episode if I had the ability to. I feel like people need an editor for these episodes, but they don't really, which feels like they don't really have an editor for a fresh set of eyes to like, you know, spot like all the wrong things so they can edit it and edit the script and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it would have been way better if, you know, Moxie was the one who wanted to be popular and stuff like that. If Moxie was the one who was popular, because that's what the thumbnail was telling me. But I was wrong. Anyway, I feel like Oops is just another Truth Seekers, you know, because there's like two people who don't usually get along are getting along. But I feel like the episode blew my mind because it helped remind me that season 2 is in some ways capable of making a good episode. Or making seemingly good episodes. Anyway, this episode was great. I like to see Ozzy and Fizz together. And sure, their relationship is not perfect. What another thing I would say is a big flaw is that Asmodeus is very overprotective of Fizz. He's very overprotective. And he's also very obsessive over him. These two obsess with each other. Also, a line that was very concerning is when Fizz said that he hated going outside, and then Ozzy is like telling him that he won't have to again. Which just seems really weird because it might seem like he wants to have them all to himself. And another thing I hated about the episode was, the part where Blitz is asking if it would ruin the moment if they made out. Like, why should you do that? I get it. Like, Blitzy has feelings for Fizzy. Blah, 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 blah. I get that. You can make it gay. All you want. But you really don't have to. With all the weird like things with this, I don't know, like just you don't have to make it weird by like having them be like, oh, are we gonna make out now? Like, what? Also, the episode was pretty good. It just reminded me of Truth Seekers, except it was just a little step down. It just felt like Truth Seekers if it were in season 2. Which is exactly what it is, because both of the episodes are episode 6. So that's another thing. Anyway, the episode was pretty good. Also, thank you for watching this video, and thank you for listening to my TED Talk. If you want me to make any more videos of this, then please let me know. Also, this is my opinion, and this is completely unscripted, so I'm sorry if I was just stammering or being silent or having very awkward silences, of course. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and if this ever ends up upgrading from me talking to myself to actually talking to some sort of audience, then it'll be different. It'll definitely be different. Also, make sure you like and subscribe, just like I said 5 seconds ago. Anyway, bye!